The Art and Science of Self-Defense, Lesson 5.5, Grab and Hook. Grabbing clothing.
When I was in 5th grade, way back in 1980, I got into my first fist fight. It wasn't a long fight, but it's very important because the tactic that I used, even at 10 years old and being untrained, was a dirty trick that gave me the upper hand over a stronger, faster opponent. So we were playing kickball, and I had an angry classmate, and he came after me, put his head down, just started swinging. I put my hands up, and I ended up reaching over his head, grabbing his shirt, and pulling it down over his head. And then I just started punching up until the kids came and pulled me off, and that was the end of the fight. But controlling my opponent by grabbing his clothing gave me the upper hand, if only for a second. Now, I know it seems kind of silly, but sometimes it's a trend to wear your pants very loose, hanging down around your hips. And if you had an aggressor wearing that type of attire, it wouldn't be that unheard of to strike to the eyes, grab those pants, pull them down, and run away. Because he's going to have a very difficult time chasing you while he's got his pants around his ankles and he's standing there in his boxers. So learn how to use your opponent's clothing by grabbing it, twisting it, and using it to control their body to push them away from you or even pull them into you during a self-defense encounter. Grabbing clothing is just like any other skill. The more you practice it, the better at it you're going to get. Brian's wearing a sweatshirt because t-shirt material is too flimsy, it pulls, it tears. This gives something more substantial for Anj to grab and practice on. So she has an aggressor, and that aggressor's going, not throwing committed attacks really. The whole point here is to learn how to grab and use the material of the shirt, maybe even the pants. So Anj needs time to figure that out. How would I do that? How would I grab the clothing? How would I twist it? Let's go slow on this one. Let's see, she's grabbed the shirt and she sets up headbutt right to the front of Brian's face. If Brian grabs, let's see how she could use the hood. She reaches up, grabs the hood, pulls it over into maybe a knee strike. Excellent. If he grabs across, do the cross grab. Watch how she grabs under the arm here. Grab under the arm, the tricep, and twists Brian away from her so that all of his weapons are facing the opposite direction. He's unable to launch a successful attack. So learning how to grab the clothes. If he punched again there, give her 1-2, Brian. And she manages to grasp and grasp. She could trap those hands. Again, she's putting Brian in a bad position. She doesn't want to keep fighting here. She just needs to stun him and disable him enough so that she can get away. So practice with a partner, grabbing the clothing, twisting it, and feeling how you can manipulate an opponent to get the upper hand.
Gouging.
Gouging is the act of maliciously driving a finger into a body orifice, usually the eyes, but it could be the ears or the nose. If Brian were attacking me, let's say grabbing my shirt, I'm going to use my thumb to drive into the orbit of the eye. Now, how is this different than a tiger claw strike? Well, a tiger claw strike is a quick strike. It goes boom, and we're gone. The gouge, on the other hand, drives the finger in, and I am really trying to push the tip of that finger into that orbital socket. And what it's going to do is it's going to create a lot of pressure on the orb of the eye, resulting in pain, and there's a pain aversion. He's going to go away from that pain, thus away from me. Now, one of the problems is, though, like let's say that Brian were grabbing my throat, and I came in and went to gouge, I'm in the same range. He could put his finger up and he could gouge me as well. So don't just stand right in front. If you move to gouge, you're going to gouge and you're going to finish quickly. So if he goes to choke, I drive it in and I drive back so that he never has an opportunity to gouge me in return.
Fish hooking.
Fish hooking is the act of putting the fingers of a single hand or even both hands into the mouth or possibly the nose and pushing away against the cheeks or the sensitive nostrils to create pain. Let's take a look at a position where Anj has been pinned up against a wall by an assailant. He has put himself in range, so she slips her finger into his mouth, making sure she doesn't get bit herself, and drives that cheek away, and then she could counterattack and run away. Let's take a look at that one more time. He slams her up against the wall. She reaches in, pushing him away. It's very hard for him to hold on to that hold now. He's exposed his abdomen. She strikes with a tiger claw. She hears that oomph. He makes that noise indicating she's scored a point, and she runs away while he's stunned. Let's take a look at a prone position where Anj has been knocked to the ground. Her assailant is over her in the mount. We're going to learn about the mount in a later lesson. She reaches up, she fish hooks the mouth, drives that cheek away, pushing him off of her using her hip. Again, we're going to learn this in a later level, but it's an excellent example of the fish hook. She delivered a kick just enough to stun her opponent so that she could make sure she could escape to safety without him pursuing.
Your homework for lesson 5.5 is to practice grabbing an attacker's clothing in order to control their body. Practice gouging, especially to the eyes and nose. And practice fish hooking to the mouth. As you train, remember, grab and twist the fabric for a firm hold. When gouging, use the tip of the thumb and drive it into the orifice. And when fish hooking, push outwards and away towards the ear.